Why does launching a product on Amazon have to be so frustrating? What? A guy on this bus? You want me to speak to a guy on this bus? What are you talking about? I really need someone to show me step by step exactly how to launch my product, so Amazon shoppers know how to find it, buy it, and review it. There's got to be a workaround for all of this.
DVI.
What?
DVI.
What are you talking about?
You need DVI. You said you're having problems with your Amazon store, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to get a product, find the right product to sell. So you need to understand DVI.
Explain it. What is this?
Sure. D stands for desirable. You want a product listing that people really desire. V stands for visibility. It means if I search the keyword for your product is going to show up really high on that search results page. And I stands for impact. It means once I receive the product, I am so blown away. I absolutely love your product. I get more than I expected, that I am very likely to give you a positive review on your product.
So how do I start? What's step one?
So first of all, you want to make your product extremely desirable.
Desirable.
Do you like acronyms?
I do.
Okay, good. Because I got some for you today. So first of all, CTR. It stands for click-through rate. And second, CR, which stands for conversion rate. So click-through rate simply means out of 100 people who go to your listing, what percentage of those buy? So let's just say 100 Lucy Pickleberries find your listing, they search the keyword, and you're on that search results page, you're one of the 20. If 5 Lucy Pickleberries click on the product out of 100, what is your click-through rate?
5 out of 100.
Yes.
Would be 5%.
Exactly. And conversion rate is kind of similar. Once they click on it, let's just say 100 Lucy Pickleberries actually are on your listing, how many of those 100 purchase the product? So let's say 10 of them purchase. So in that case, what is your conversion rate?
10 out of 100 would be 10%.
Exactly. So this is how you measure the desirability of your product, is you use the click-through rate and the conversion rate. Those are two keys that a lot of new Amazon sellers don't even understand. And there's 6 steps you can take so that your product will actually sell. So people absolutely love that product.
So with click-through rate, conversion rate, what can I do? What can I do on my end to make sure I up those percentages? What actually makes people click and then convert? What makes people buy my product?
You ask very good questions. So first of all, your image. That listing image, the main featured image, is the most important part of that listing. Look at it this way. When you go into a brick and mortar store to buy, do you smoke a pipe?
I don't.
I'm sorry?
I do not.
No, I'm sorry. But anyways, let's say you go into a pipe store and you're looking for a pipe to buy. What do you do before you buy that pipe? A brick and mortar retail store.
I'm probably going to pick it up. I'm going to feel it. I might speak to an assistant. I might ask how much it is. Maybe I can test it.
Exactly. So what you're doing is you're using your 5 senses. You're smelling it, you're touching it, you're feeling it, listening to it if it's relevant to sound. But on Amazon, the only thing people have to use, the only sense they have to use to buy your product is their eyeballs. So that's why that first image, it's so important that it's absolutely amazing. It needs to make me feel like I can reach out and grab it. Second, not only your featured image on your listing, but your bullet points. So most people, they've already read your title when they search the first keyword. But once they get to the listing, they first look at the image, then they start going through the bullet points to find out, okay, what makes this product uniquely different from all the rest? Additionally, they're gonna look at the reviews. They're gonna look at the reviews, are they positive? How many do you have compared to your other competitors? Then they're gonna look at the description, and finally, they're gonna look at the questions and answers further down on the listing. Now here's what's interesting about all of these different areas that they use to determine if they're going to buy your product. Of those 5 parts of your listing, can you control the main photo?
Yes.
Okay. Can you control the bullet points?
Yes.
Okay. Can you control the description?
Yes.
And can you control what you say in response to the questions they write about your listing?
Yes.
So there's one more that we have not discussed yet, and that is reviews. Can you control the reviews they put on your product?
No.
So here's what's cool. It's the same principle in life. If you focus on the things that you can control, which is the image, the bullet points, the description, the answers to the questions they ask, usually the reviews take care of themselves. But if all your energy and focus is on the reviews, and I see a lot of Amazon sellers do this, they're so obsessed about the reviews that they lose their peace over it. They become extremely anxious about it. They're always worried about it. And as a result, they lose sleep over something they can't control. And if I go to your listing and the only thing that makes your listing stand out from the competition is the reviews, it's just a matter of time before someone beats you at your own game. But if you focus on the things you can control, you will tend to get really good reviews, and the reviews will take care of themselves.
That is a really good way of looking at this. And so like if I wanted to start doing this, you mentioned 6 steps. What would the first step be? What big steps would you take in order to build out and take action on what we can control, so that we enhance those factors we can't control? Where would you start?
I'm so glad you asked. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to build a better product. Apple said for a while, think different. YouTube says, broadcast yourself. Coca-Cola said, drink happiness or open happiness. We say, build it better. I love to ask this question to Amazon sellers. I'll say, why would I buy your product above all the competition? Because when I go and search a keyword, let's just say it's a baby monitor, and all these listings come up, I'm comparing the products like you would as well if you smoked a pipe and you found pipes in a pipe shop. You'd be comparing them. You wouldn't just look at one and say, I want that one. You usually compare and you make a judgment to decide which one you buy based on the value you're going to get for what you want, comparing it relative to the others. So if your product is superior, if it's better, if it's fixing a problem that no one else is fixing, your chance of succeeding is so much greater. I'm convinced that one of the biggest reasons Amazon sellers don't succeed, and the truth is the majority of them don't. 300 new Amazon sellers sign up a day to sell, yet only 10% or under actually end up growing significantly strong levels of passive income doing it. And the reason is they did what's called a Me Too product. They saw a product on Amazon, it was selling well, they found the same thing in Alibaba, they got excited, they bought it in Alibaba, they sent it in, and it started selling well for a while, but all of a sudden, the sales began to slow. And the reason they began to slow is because they didn't make their product different, and so someone else just copied what they did. Or it never sold in the beginning, because you have their product, you have someone else's product, and the only difference is the other competitor has 3,000 reviews, but yours have none because you just launched. And therefore, it's really hard to get sales if your product is not built better. In fact, you want it so much better that I can visually see the difference. When I go to your listing, I can tell just looking at that main photo that there's something yours is doing that no one else is doing.
So you're saying when I choose to improve my product, or in fact when I choose the product I'm going to improve, I should be choosing products that I can improve visually, almost, because if I have that visual benefit, if my product's better visually, then it's going to be visually better on the main image, leading to click-through rates, conversion rate, and more sales.
You got it. You're exactly right. Very well said. And the beautiful thing about that is because people buy with their eyes, if your main photo shows me that yours is better. In other words, if you differentiate it in a way that's hard to be visual in a picture, like let's say you have superior material, and you might even say, well, but Seth, I put it in the bullet points, I put it in the description, even I put it in the title. It usually doesn't matter because I'm still going to let my eyes emotionally determine which one I want. Therefore, if yours has an LCD screen and no one else does, now that is visual in a picture. That will make me want to buy your product. But if the superiority of your product is you have titanium screws, no one really cares.
Yeah. this makes sense. And like, so once I've actually built a better product, you can see the product I'm busy researching here.
Yeah.
But once, say I manage to build this visually better, in a visually better way, what would be the next step after I've built that with a manufacturer in an enhanced way?
Yeah, great question. So once you have a better product, which is the foundation, you're going to build a better product. Secondly, you're going to show a better product. Back to the main image as we discussed, but it doesn't stop there.
But if I built the better product, wouldn't it just, that's all I need to do, right? If I build it better, it will sell better.
It's good you're thinking about the value of the product itself. It's very wise. What's missing is you're talking about real value, but you haven't yet mentioned perceived value. Perceived value means how it appears. So if the product appears amazing to me, I'm going to want to buy it. But it doesn't matter if you have the most amazing product in the world. If I can't tell that just by looking at the first image or looking at the bullet points and the title, I mean all combined, if I can't tell that obviously, then I'm not gonna buy it. So your perceived value is just as important. Now some people, they do the opposite. They say, you know what? I'm gonna make my product look absolutely amazing. And they do in the pictures. But when someone buys it and Bobby McGee opens it up and takes the product out of the box, he's sorely disappointed because what the picture promised, the perceived value, the product could not deliver the real value. And as a result, what do you think he's gonna do on your listing?
Leave me negative reviews.
Exactly. And when you have negative reviews, that's going to affect your click-through rate and your conversion rate, as we discussed before, which means you get less sales, which means you won't rank, which means no one can find you, and you're on page 779, and your Amazon store has pretty much disappeared from existence. One more thing. When you find that main featured photo, even though you might think it's best, it doesn't matter what you think. What matters is what the Amazon shoppers, or as they like to say around here, Amazon shoppers, what they think is what matters. If they love that image, that determines if they're gonna buy it or not. So what you can do is for 1 week, try one image, then switch it out with another image. Don't change your price, don't change your bullet points or your title, let all the other variables be static. So the one thing you've changed is the picture. And if you see a significant increase in your sales, not like 2 or 3% is not enough, but let's say 10, 15%, or a drop in your sales, then you know which picture is better. Or just go to pickfu.com and you can pickfu, exactly, pickfu.com, and they will allow you to, for a very small fee, people can judge the pictures and vote on which one they like more. Because remember, you're building a product for others. This is really where a lot of new entrepreneurs miss it. I know they're all about building their freedom, that's great, but they have to think different when it comes to a business. They have to think, what do other people want? It has to become selfless and less self-serving, and that's gonna result in better conversion.
That's really interesting. So you're actually, would you advise creating multiple main images when I get that created?
Yes.
In different formats so I could split test them at a later stage?
Exactly. And here's one trick too. Let's say you have a product that's somewhat long. What you want to do is inside this square, instead of making it like this, you're going to angle it like that. So it's going from one corner to the other corner, which fills up more of the real estate you have, and that will increase your conversion. So make your pictures fill up as much of the white space as possible. Amazon's requirements are 80%. If you can reach 83, 84, 85% of that space, that's going to increase the conversion even more. So that white background with this contrasted makes it look really amazing.
Okay, so use as much of the space as possible,
Exactly.
showing as much value as possible.
Right.
But not over promising.
Correct.
We're at the right expectation level.
Exactly.
And then, so let's say I have built a better product, I have shown a better product, I've represented that. What would your third step be?
Before I do that, let me just mention one more thing. When you create those bullet points, you want to focus on benefits before features. It would be natural for me to say, if talking about, let's say, the pipe, how excited I am about this, special titanium steel that's amazing and it's high quality and it doesn't oxidate and turn green and all that. The problem is no one cares about the material until they see the benefit of the material. So what I'm going to start with is non-oxidizing, non-rusting, smells amazing. See what I mean? I want them to feel and see and taste the benefit first. Then the second half of that bullet point will show the science behind it that proves it. So for example, let's say let's use the baby monitor as an example. If you're launching a baby monitor product and your baby monitor has a very high sensibility so it can detect any movement from the baby quickly, you would say detects any slight movement from the baby. Then you would show the science, the technical behind the scenes work that demonstrates that. This way you're appealing both to the nerds who want all the facts and the emotional buyers, which is the majority of people, who want all the benefits. But always benefits first, and then you're going to have the features that prove those benefits.
Wow, I always thought those were actually just similar terms. I thought those were in fact the same thing, but now that you explain it like that, one is the actual result, the performance of the feature.
Correct.
The benefit is the performance of the feature for the user.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I must change this on, I must write this out for this listing.
Absolutely. If you think of what will people love about this product the most, like the emotional stuff, and just write that first, then just prove it, you're gonna have a stellar list of bullet points.
Yeah. And so what would step 3 be?
So first step, you're gonna build a better product. Step 2, you're gonna show a better product. Step 3, you're gonna turn on something we like to call ERP, since you said you love acronyms. It stands for the Early Reviewer Program. So it'll give you up to 5 reviews potentially on your listing, where Amazon reaches out to the customer and asks them to review the product.
But I don't want to do anything outside of TOS.
Good question. And it's 100% within TOS because Amazon started this program themselves. So this is not like an incentivized review where you're doing something kind of shady under the table. And Amazon's gotten really good at catching those people and shutting down those accounts. What you're doing is you're saying, Amazon, I want you to use your early reviewer program. I want to enlist. It will cost you $60 per SKU. And I know a lot of new Amazon sellers, they go, man, that just seems like a lot of money. Like, especially if you're launching 5 products, that's $300. But consider this, 1 positive review is so powerful for your listing because when your listing starts, treat it like a newborn baby. It's fragile, it's sensitive. I mean, just a few seconds without air or a few hours without milk could be the difference between life and death. Well, the same is true of your Amazon listing. If someone leaves a critical review on there and you only have 1 positive review, you are now down to 2.5 stars. So it's extremely sensitive. So the sooner you can get those reviews coming in, the safer you are.
This is true because that's what I'm finding so stressful in this is I don't want to get a 1-star review.
Right.
I know that's going to really damage those star ratings because I have no others to compensate for that.
Yep.
And with this, do I have to be brand registered?
No, you do not. There's a different kind of review program, which I'll talk about in a second, but for this, you do not have to be brand registered. You don't have to have an approved trademark. You can do this immediately as soon as you start. And Amazon's doing this, ERP. Amazon's doing this to help the seller because they realize reviews matter, but they want honest reviews. And if you follow the first step, build a better product, you should not have a problem getting amazing reviews once they get it and receive it.
Awesome. And then from there, are those all the steps, or is there more that you go into?
Yes, absolutely. So let me add a little side tip. You mentioned brand registry. Once you are brand registered, you can actually upload videos now. It doesn't have to be this fancy, amazing video, but a video that simply shows the benefits. Some Amazon sellers for a baby product have been extremely successful with just a 30 to 40 second video on their iPhone, just recording their child hobbling around, cute little baby, right? In the kids' room, whether it's blue or pink. And they love that because it's emotionally engaging. So a lot of people get hung up on this. It's not as important that the video is super professional, more that it's emotional and personal. And that's also going to increase the conversion of your product. If I can now see that video, that gives me a massive advantage. And we actually go through, well, how do you get brand registered? We walk through this in crazy depth. If you ever go to justonedime.com/freedom, we have a full-on training. It is not just a course, it is a freaking membership that you get for life. And it trains you and shows you how to get brand registered, and it goes very deep on these steps.
justonedime.com/freedom.
Yes, sir.
and then you'll show us how to get brand registered.
Absolutely. We show you that and a ton more. You'll get 3 to 4 hours of live coaching every single week because Amazon constantly changes. It can't be some old recycled course. You need the freshest content. I and all of our coaches sell on Amazon successfully. Like, we know Amazon very well, and so we teach that as we go.
Because I've heard a lot of benefits coming out of brand registry. Also, A+ content is something I've been researching today as I've been researching these products. And I've heard that allows you to bypass using HTML, and you actually get a beautiful template you can fill out at the bottom of your listing. So with brand registry, I'd be able to do videos on the listing and that enhanced brand content.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And what it does is it gives you several templates you can pick from, like 5 to 6 templates. So you can feature your product in different ways. Maybe it's pictures at the top, then content like copy, and then more pictures. And what I love about it is you can pick a template that matches the kind of product category you're doing. So for example, if it's fashion, obviously it needs to be more picture oriented, but there's going to be certain questions they're going to have, especially about how it fits different body types. But if it's more technical, maybe you want one picture, then explanation, another picture, then explanation. It gives you so much more power. It's amazing.
This is really interesting because I remember seeing those sections on listings and thinking that must be for like, you know, Amazon partners or Amazon vendors. It must be for some really high level accounts.
Right.
But it's for any brand registered sellers as long as we do become brand registered.
Exactly. Yep.
So it seems to me we can really boost click-through rate and conversion rate way more if we're brand registered because we have these additional features. Amazing. And then from here, after step 3, ERP, and we did discuss brand registry, what would your next step be at this point?
So let me show you. So you were looking at your Amazon store here, and I noticed something. You don't have a coupon clipping on your listing.
What is that?
Yeah, great question. If you go to advertising and you select coupon, you have an option to do a money off or a percentage off. And what this means, let me just give you an example. So if you have 2 options here, okay, and you're going to pick either money off or percentage off, you can pick whichever one looks better on your listing. It means if I go to your listing and I put in that coupon code, I can get a discount. And what I mean by percentage off is maybe, let's say it's, you know, 1% off. Now 1% may not be as impressive as $5. So you can pick whichever one looks better. Go ahead.
So this is a, just so I'm clear, this is a badge that sits on the front of my listing before someone clicks into my listing.
Exactly. And the weird thing is that even though it's just a discount, it creates trust. Because you also have Amazon's choice badges on some listings that do really well. That increases trust. Now you have an additional badge on your listing, which means when I see that, it automatically makes it look a little more premium. And here's where it really gets crazy. A lot of people, they don't think about applying the coupon, so they forget to. So you still get your full money, but the fact that you had it on there increased the chance that they would actually click on it and buy that product.
Interesting. So you're using this to up click-through rates, but they're not actually applying this before checking out.
Exactly. And a lot of people are afraid to do it because Amazon sellers, because they think, wait, I need my margins. But at the beginning, remember, it's like a baby. How much does a baby really serve you? Not much at all. Not until that baby grows into a young adult. So at the beginning, you're giving everything you can to the baby. So you're not just, remember before we talked about building a better product? That's where you were investing in a really good product. Now you're investing in the case that holds the product. In other words, the listing. Both are equally important. A lot of people who come from brick and mortar businesses, they're very focused on the product and the store, how the store looks, how it feels. Well, the same is true for an Amazon seller. Just replace the physical store with the listing. See, the pictures, the bullet points, the title, and of course, the coupon clipping.
Okay, and then in terms of pricing, I've heard a lot of different things in terms of pricing. You should, you know, some people saying you should price higher because people perceive, you know, higher prices as higher quality. I've heard other advice where you should start your price much lower, and other advice where you should leave your price static so that you don't risk things like losing the buy box or something like that. what is your approach on pricing at launch?
Yeah.
Like as I bring this product to market here, if I've done all of that, where would you price this?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned price, because price does have an impact on click-through rate. People do look at the prices. When you go into a store, if you see the range of prices from 40 to 60, you might subliminally think, well, the $60 ones might be too much, but they're probably higher value. And the $40 is a little cheaper, maybe something in the middle. A lot of people like to do that. The way I like to price my products is, let's say the range is $40 to $60 for my top 10 competitors. If the highest is 60, mine will be maybe around, let's say, $57. And the reason for that is I want them to feel like they're getting a deal. But when you go to my listing, you can tell the value is much greater than all my competitors. However, you mentioned when you launch.
And I can tell that from the main image.
No.
How am I?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, you can. You mean the value. Yeah, I thought you were talking about the pricing. Yeah. Yes.
Why is yours higher value? Because of what we implemented with the main image.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, very good. Because that main image shows you that mine is, when they look at my main image and all the other main images, either maybe it's a bundle, they can see there's more parts to it, maybe it's more descriptive, or it shows something it's fixing that everyone else has. Let me give you an example. So one of our products relates to bottles. And everyone else had leaky bottles. And they were still selling because they liked them, but like 1 out of 3 or 4 would leak. So we made our main image show that as the bottle churned, it doesn't leak. You can immediately look at it and tell it doesn't leak. We fixed that problem, and as a result, it sells very, very well. But here's the other piece. Your introductory pricing is different than your target price. When I mentioned $57, just a little bit below the price of the top competitors in a range of 40 to 60, introductory pricing might put you at $37, significantly lower. And you're doing that because at the beginning, you want to get as many buys as you can. And so having that lower price might get you better, oftentimes gets you better conversion at the beginning, which gets you more sales, which increases your chance of getting more reviews, which makes your listing safer and safer and safer. And that cyclical progress causes you to sell faster and faster.
So you recommend a lower price in the beginning?
Yes, absolutely. And then you can inch it up little by little. You don't want to jump $20 up because then you might lose the buy box. Because if Amazon sees an unstable price history, your buy now button could be gone. Even if you don't have other hijackers on the listing or people latching onto it, piggybacking onto it like they do in arbitrage, you could lose that box. So you don't want to do that. But you're just going to inch it up little by little as you continue to get sales all the way up to your $57 target price after you have a good amount of reviews.
Another thing I was thinking is, because if we're showing more value at an introductory price,
yes,
we're also upping the chances of good reviews.
Absolutely.
Because people are, parting with less value for our high value.
You nailed it. I think you're going to do this really well. Yeah, you're thinking about it right, and I love it.
So let me get this right. At this point, we've built a better product, we've shown a better product, we turned on early reviewer program. We also did a coupon clipping, and we've done introductory pricing.
Correct.
So is there anything else you would add to that?
Yes. There's something new that Amazon just made available only to brand registered Amazon sellers. Now previously, you had to apply for it. It was primarily available to vendor sellers as well. Now it's available to third-party sellers. And by a third-party seller, I mean what you're doing. You signed up to sell your own products. You have control over them. You're not selling them to Amazon wholesale first. That would be vendor. If you are brand registered, or once you do get brand registered, you can enroll for Amazon Vine program. They're called the Vine Voices. Now, the Vine Voices is a really interesting group of people. These guys are complete nerds. They do reviews like their life depended on it. I mean, they will do these long, super detailed pictures, photos. I like this, I don't like this, but generally tend to be pretty positive. They're not the kind of reviewers that are looking for problems. Some people are always looking for the negative. They're not like that. They tend to be glass half full people. Now, that's not a guarantee the review will be positive, but if you did all the other steps, especially you built a really good product and you over-delivered, like what they receive, they love. Especially if you just so happen to put a free gift in there every time, that could also help as well. And they got that introductory price, and they got that coupon clipping. I mean, they're gonna be overwhelmingly happy. The chances of them giving you a high review is very, very high for your listing. Now, we can't guarantee them, but you can apply for it and carry on.
And so Vine Voices, this is a bit confusing. So Vine voices are actually normal people, but these are like competitive Amazon reviewers.
Competitive with each other that they can achieve the best reviews, yes. I don't know if I call them normal people because they're pretty nerdy and they love reviews. They probably do reviews for a living if they could. But yeah, they're normal people for practical sake, yes.
I've seen a Vine Voices badge on some reviews.
Yes, that little green.
What does that mean?
Yeah, so it means this was done by a Vine voice, which brings a certain amount of credibility. When a buyer sees that, they realize, oh my goodness, this was done by an Amazon Vine voice. This is special. So it increases the credibility, and it's definitely a confirmed, verified purchase. In other words, you can go on any product and review it, like up to a certain number a day, but it means they bought it, and they reviewed it, and they have a credible voice to bring to that product.
That's what that is. And then I've also seen early reviewer on some reviews.
Correct.
And so that's what the ERP is.
Correct. Exactly.
This is all starting to make sense.
Yeah, and what's cool about it is you start with the early reviewer program, then once you're brand registered, you apply for the Amazon Vine. So you really have two tiers. You have the beginner tier, then the intermediate to advanced tier. In both situations, Amazon's giving us the tools to get reviews. And here's the thing, if you ever feel like your product is so desperate that you have to go out and get incentivized reviews, and by that I mean you give the product to someone and pay them on PayPal on the back end, then you probably did not build the product right. But if you took the time to build it right, it's just only a matter of time until you start getting those reviews, because people are going to love the product if you did your work beforehand.
Yeah. And with Vine, well, first of all, with Vine, are there any specific requirements my listing must meet in order for me to enroll in Vine?
Yes. So it cannot be an adult product. It has to have at least one featured image. It has to at least have a description, and you have to be brand registered in order to qualify.
Okay. And
you can get up to 30 reviews for Vine Voices. So if you already have beyond that, you couldn't apply.
30?
Correct.
Okay. So if my listing has less than 30, I can enroll in Vine?
And it usually takes about 22 days for them to leave the review, which is not bad at all. I mean, think about it. Yeah, that's 3 weeks. And you can have a flood of reviews on your listing within a month.
So you're telling me that I could, if I were brand registered, enroll in the Vine program with an introductory price that looks like a really good, a really good deal to normal customers. And these are professional reviewers, so they know what a good deal is. They would get my product, and within a month, I could essentially have 30 reviews on this brand new listing.
Correct. I don't think you need me anymore. I think you got this nailed right down pat.
How did I not know this?
Because there's a lot of people out there giving garbage online, telling people, hey, here's how you do it. And they're doing it because they just want you to buy a course. But they're not actually selling on Amazon. They're not actually doing the work. They're not taking the time and the pain to do it right. And that's what makes Just One Dime so unique, is we teach from the heart because we've been through the ups and the downs and the pains and the struggles and all the frustration of Amazon, so we can tell you, here's what you can do to speed your track to making money. But I will tell you this, it will not be easy, my friend. I've been walking through London. In London, I've talked to a lot of people, and I notice a lot of people, they're not smiling. And so I'll start talking to them and saying, how are you? What's going on? And I see a universal concept. They hate their job. This doesn't make all jobs bad. This doesn't make employers bad. But a lot of people are not doing what they love because they just picked an easier path. It was easier, had more security. And I start talking to them about Amazon and explaining the opportunity. I was just talking to an Uber driver, and I said, look, man, the only time you're paid is when you're driving. Don't take this wrong, but when I go to sleep, I'm getting paid. When I wake up, I'm wealthier than before when I went to bed because I sell on Amazon. There's no reason people in this world cannot have this opportunity. We live at an unprecedented time. I've never in my life have I seen more opportunity for people. Think about it. I know it's easy to not see this because we're so engrossed in our own daily life, but if we just back up for a moment, in the history of the world, never have we been able to communicate to so many countries, travel to so many countries, and sell to people from all over the world. In the early 1900s, even in the mid 1900s, people would have been amazed at the opportunity we have. And I don't want people to lose that perspective. Right now is an opportunity we must take. I believe 100 years from now, people will look back and say this was an amazing time. And only those who take advantage of it are going to create margins so they have the freedom to do the things they love with the people they love.
this is great. There's so much I learned that I didn't know. A lot of this I didn't know. I think this is a much better opportunity. I was struggling so much with how am I going to make sure people can find my product, that they buy my product. And you know, the biggest fear is that they review my product and that they do that in a favorable way. So you know, this investment's actually worthwhile. But this is amazing. Thank you so much, Seth.